All right, so let me explain what's happening now. Vanessa, can we put Vanessa on the screen? I'm incredibly proud to bring you Vanessa. You started with James this morning. James is the director of Stanford HAI. Vanessa is one of the other people that run Stanford HAI, and on Monday and next week, she's going on a roadshow, East Coast, Washington, D.C., New York, and some others to reveal this big index. Everyone holds their breath for this index. She's not going to tell it to you now. You cannot record this or take photos of this. Please close one eye and stand on one foot for security measures. But I did ask her to give you a few highlights because she is a partner. And I don't think I've told her this, but Vanessa, this is some news to you. Everyone in this room, all 500 people, have a lanyard, and on it says Imagination Action, then it says CSAIL, and then it says Stanford HAI. So this is an official HAI event that you are presenting at, and it's fitting that we had Eric Brunilson earlier today in the middle. We started with James, and we're closing with Vanessa. Then Peter and I, who actually were with Vanessa last Wednesday, are going to talk a little bit about the next event that's happening in Silicon Valley in September that Vanessa is one of the co-organizers of. And then last year at Google, the day before Y Combinator, we had 75 pitches, and many of the people pitched the next day, pitched at YC for their demo day. One of ours stood out, and we recognized it, and she's the first winner. Cinnamon, can you just wave? She's the first winner of, usually we don't have prizes, but we gave out 3 prizes. She won, I think, like $200,000 in cloud credits from NVIDIA and Google also, and then a $25,000 cash. And she's a CEO, total, rock star. Stanford undergrad, Stanford grad school, and CEO of a company that you need to know about. And I said to her, by being the winner, kind of like, going on tour. If you win NASCAR, or win, the NBA, you go on tour, win the Turing Prize. Bob Metcalf was all over the place. I'm asking her to tell you what she's working on. You could decide, did we get it right or did we screw it up? So you're gonna bring us home. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Vanessa! All right, one eye closed,
hello everyone.
Standing on one foot and no recording. If anyone tweets this or posts this, I'll be really disappointed because this is a big favor and I want you to have access to this information before it gets released.
And you'll all see it Monday anyway, so not too long to hold your photos. But thank you everyone. I'm Vanessa Parli. I'm Managing Director of Programs and External Engagement at the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I'm excited to see you all in Silicon Valley in September. So I'm going to share a few slides because the AI index is very visual. We have a lot of charts and graphs. So I'm assuming you all can see that. It looks like so. Awesome. All right. So these days, every conversation about AI seems to swing between apocalypse and utopia. But for builders, investors, operators, researchers, the real challenge is somewhere in the messy middle. So what is real? What is hype? And where do we place our bets is a question that we're all grappling with. The AI Index is an annual report out of HAI that aims to help answer that question. It provides a data-driven view of the progress of AI, equipping policymakers, business leaders, and the public with objective insights on the quickly emerging field. So as mentioned, the 9th edition will be released Monday. I'll give you all a sneak peek. So the index is led by a steering committee of leaders from across disciplines, from academia to industry to policy. We have folks from various places around the world. And in the AI index, one of the items we track are AI benchmarks. So for those in the room who might not know, though many of you probably do, an AI benchmark is essentially a test or evaluation of how well an algorithm performs against a certain task. So for example, in 2012, Fei Li, one of HAI's co-founders, released ImageNet, a benchmark that evaluated how well algorithms can classify images. This chart illustrates the progress of AI systems on 8 benchmarks relative to the human baseline. So that dotted line is the human baseline. And each of the colored lines corresponds to a different benchmark. So we have image classification, PhD level science questions, visual reasoning, and more. And you notice that many of the colored lines, especially in the past couple of years, are hitting or exceeding that human baseline. And for years now, the field of benchmarking has been an active area of research. There's been new and improved benchmarks coming out each year. And this year is no different. We're continuing to see benchmark design continuing to evolve. So, a few examples. First, we see a new benchmark that we see new benchmarks that explicitly look at agentic tasks. So how well agents complete a series of tasks. This is an example of one of them, OS World, which is a scalable computer environment designed to evaluate multimodal agents on open-ended tasks across various operating systems. The best model at completing this benchmark as of December 2025 was Claude Opus 4.5. And Claude went from being able to complete about 5% of the tasks on this benchmark in late 2024 to about 65% in just 1 year. Second, this year we're seeing more emphasis on real world task formats. So, benchmarks that have been developed to evaluate how well AI is in certain domains. So, examples include Terminal Bench, which is a benchmark for testing AI and agents in real terminal environments, evaluating how they can autonomously handle end to end tasks from compiling code to setting up servers. There's also a benchmark called Mortgage Tax, which is evaluating language models' ability to extract structured information from real tax certificates. So, tax day is coming up. I hope they can get better at doing taxes. And so, while we see many of these systems getting better, we saw that chart at the beginning where the benchmarks are exceeding the dotted line. Many multimodal models still struggle with something humans find quite routine, which is telling time. So, recent studies show that models have trouble reading analog clocks. It combines visual perception and simple arithmetic. So, identifying the clock hands, their positions, and then converting it into a real time value. The benchmark Clock QA tests 7 multimodal models on 2 focused data sets. And Clock QA included 62 analog clock images across different visual styles, which you see on the slide there. And Calendar QA paired yearly calendar images with date reasoning questions. On clock reading, even the best performing model achieved only 22% accuracy. And models did much better on the calendar questions, reaching 80%, but there's still errors when they have to require kind of some arithmetic rather than just recognition of known holidays. So even as models close the gap in human expert knowledge intensive tasks, this visual reasoning remains a persistent challenge. Another area where there's still a lot of progress to be made is robotics. So, Behavior 1K is a simulation benchmark built on real human needs. So, they did a survey to determine what tasks humans would want robots to complete. Results from the challenge in 2025 show how difficult these tasks remain. So the top team achieved a Q score of about 26% on the held out test set. That's the blue bar on this chart. And the full task success rates, the pink bars, were even lower, with the top only achieving 12%. The AI Index has many data partners, one of which is called Quid, and Quid analyzes investment data from more than 8 million companies worldwide. This chart shows global corporate AI investment has grown almost 40-fold since 2013. This year, it reached a new high of about $580 billion. And that private investment is highly concentrated in the United States, followed distantly by China. And the average private AI investment event rose to 55 million in 2025. 28 events exceeded 1 billion compared to 15 in 2024. Drawing on McKinsey's State of AI survey, we examine how these investments translate into organizational use and business outcomes. So, this survey asks respondents whether they are using AI in at least one business function. So, while this number has remained relatively consistent at between 50 and 60%, um, in 2024, it jumped up into the 70s, and in 2025, again, it jumped up into the 80s. And this shows that the response since 2021, when asked about two, three, four, or five business units, we see similar exponential growth at different levels with less people implementing at four and five business units. The McKinsey survey also captured how deeply AI is being integrated into an organization's operations by looking at the different stages of the deployment lifecycle. So, this chart shows the number of respondents across the x axis and the size of the company on the y axis, with larger companies at the bottom. And the colors represent which stage of deployment they are in. And as expected, given the resource and investment demands of integrating AI, we do see larger companies more likely to report AI progress in the more scaling phase. But still, most respondents said their companies are at least experimenting or piloting with AI. This chart shows specifically how they're deploying agentic AI, and you can see that pink bar, the we're not doing anything at all, is much bigger than just the generative AI chart shown previously. This chart shows the speed of adoption of AI compared to earlier transformative technologies. So the x-axis is the years since the introduction into mass market, and the y is the adoption rate. Generative AI reached approximately 53% adoption within 3 years, which is quicker than the personal computer and the internet over comparable timeframes. However, adoption varies widely around the globe. So, this is work done by researchers at Microsoft and shows that there's lower usage in South Asia and Sub Saharan Africa. The UAE and Singapore report some of the highest adoption at 54 and 61%, respectively. And that adoption is highly correlated with GDP. So most high income economies cluster around that 25 to 45% adoption, but the UAE and Singapore are outliers with above typical adoption levels. Like AI adoption, AI optimism is also mixed. So, from 30 countries surveyed by Ipsos, many reported increased optimism between 22 and 2025. So, this shows respondents who agreed that the benefit of AI outweighs the drawbacks. Several European countries reported a higher level of optimism over this period, though it's still lower than other parts of Asia and Latin America. AI model development remains highly concentrated with a small number of mostly global north countries. Majority of models are developed in the US and China. And historically, the United States has produced the largest total output of notable models. This did continue in 2025, but does seem to be shifting. So, aside from development, we also look at research publications to try to think about the innovation and research in around the world. So we look at the 100 most cited AI publications from 2021 to 2024. And the geographic distribution of these top 100 publications has gone through a steady evolution. So the United States still ranks the highest, though its share has gradually declined. China's share has gradually increased, and we see Australia actually this year has had a sharp increase. And while publications track research outputs, patents offer insight into that applied innovation and commercial development. This chart looks at forward citations of those patents. So forward citations capture incidents of how often later patents reference earlier ones. So while not a direct measure of technical impact, forward citations tend to signal how often inventions inform subsequent innovation. And each data point here reflects a forward citation to AI patents. So for patents between 2010 and 2024 are shown on this chart, the United States accounts for over half, um, suggesting greater input. China follows, and we do see a strong home bias for where these patents are being forward cited. So we are deep in preparations for the release on Monday. I just shared a few highlights with you all, but there is much more in the report. It was very hard to put together just a few that I thought you might find most interesting. So please check it out. We have many different topics: science, medicine, education. There's something for everybody. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. This QR code, you can take a picture of this. This QR code is to sign up for the newsletter so you can get notified when the report comes out. And yeah, thank you all very much for having me. And I hope to see you in Silicon Valley in September.
And can you guys clap right now? I'm going to edit this part out, but I want I want this in the video so when people watch it and they're not here, they can see the amount of energy that there was in celebrating this amazing report pre-early. All right, go. Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! All right.
All right.
Peter,
thank
come
you,
on up.
John. Thank you, everyone.
Can you put my slides up? All right, so Moore's Law, going back to Ada Lovelace, it's been going up. Recently, the curves have been ridiculous. You all know this. This is the MIT Dome, inspired by the Parthenon, inspired by Thomas Jefferson and UVA. It's known. I was in a helicopter over it. This is the MIT Dome. There's also another dome. And when I saw this dome, I knew, love at first sight, that this had to be where MIT did the second dome event on another continent. And this is Davos. It's not drawn to scale. It's not really that big. And Vanessa, who you were just here, we partner with CSAIL, the largest lab at MIT, and HAI, the largest AI group that does real stuff. And I didn't ask either president, hey, can I claim that we're the MIT Stanford event? I've emailed both of them. Neither of them have said cease and desist, and they're really proud of this event. And I didn't ask either lab if I could make them partners. I just told them they're partners, and they seem fine about it. The event is awesome. There are lines around the block. 3,000 people got in the dome. It was the talk of the event in Davos, the World Economic Forum. And when you came in, you could either get a HAI lanyard or a Stanford lanyard. Today, your lanyards have both logos, so yours is a collector's item. This is the dome, and it's fun. You got the mountains in the background. One year, we did something cool. We had 12 touch screens, and we had all these MIT kids come in and do demos, but it was a total disaster. The dome, the voices on the touch screens, we had 12 every 90 minutes. We rotated 72 demos, but the sounds bounced off the ceiling, and the speakers sitting on the stage couldn't hear themselves think, and so we moved them out. But we are very committed to having not pay-for-play demos, but real awesome demos. Demis Hasabe, this guy has done projects for him. What, you did like a chess thing or something?
Yeah. They told me the way to demonstrate hard is through video games. That's the.
Yeah. So they're fellow Gemini people. I think there's a hierarchy there, right? But yeah. But
we're not totally flat yet.
Yeah, it's not a flat organization. Yeah. And then Jan LeCun spoken a bunch of times, including on this stage. And when he left Meta, there's some drama there. He said, John, I want to make a big statement about, I'm back. And so, he spoke here. And I look skinny because I'm wearing a skinny tie. And then this is Will.i.am. As I mentioned, he's spoken a lot. There's Randall, president of MIT's spoken the last 2 years. And then the chief minister of a state that's 15% of the country of India's GDP, where Mumbai has made a big announcement. So we're about action, and we're a magnet for people who want to talk about action. We had a health panel. We had a physical AI panel. And then we've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm really proud of this one. A month after ChatGPT 2 dropped, Mira Wilczek's holding up a book that she had ChatGPT write Nobody that year mentioned ChatGPT except for us. Think about that. I want us to always be cutting edge. So all of you, I'm deputizing you. If you have things that we should be talking about that can be ahead of the curve and get out there at any of our imagination actions, you are licensed, not like 007 to kill and James Bond. You're licensed to contribute ideas. We had president of a CEO of Deloitte and David Rubenstein and Eric Schmidt. Afterwards, we had like a bilateral meeting. We had a room where a lot of our speakers did meetings that we coordinated to help facilitate some things, and this is one of them. I also am proud that in addition to Dome, we had like side stages. This is one of them. This was another one. We had all these spaces outside the Dome. Head of investments for Saudi Aramco, and there's Richard, who is here today. And then we built this pop-up space for the night before. This was like our clubhouse. A lot of our speakers are in high demand, and the night before they have parties to go to. And we said, oh, come stop by here. And we took the name tags, which we all have here, and put them on a light board. Some speakers we invited had nowhere to go. And we said, this is your clubhouse. So this is a really cool place for people to foreshadow what we're doing. This is across the street, literally like 20 yards from the entrance to the Dome. And next year, we're going to make this a simulcast space where people can listen intimately to what happens in the Dome. And there are 4 stages in the Dome, 20 blocks, kind of like today. So, you know, if you were here today and experienced today, this is similar but different. So last year in September, we got all these speakers. You recognize all the headshots for Stanford. And if you see the breakdown, enterprise, startup, investors, faculty at Stanford, journalists, and volunteers. And you see the kind of convection currents that come from this. And we had lines around the block at Google. Like the Googlers were like, I haven't seen this since the 1990s. Or not. Wait, did Google exist in the 1990s?
Yeah. I'd say like early aughts.
Yeah. No, the Googlers were surprised. They thought they were being invaded. They're like, who are all these people? And then the next day, we took over the 2 star buildings. See there, the Oval. That's not the Oval where the East Wing is kind of moving or whatever. This is the Oval at Stanford. Although Olmsted designed this campus. And you know, you and I were talking about how it's at Google, you know, it's like, oh, we have to go between 3 buildings. But we put a flying car in between the 3. Nice. Yeah. And, you know, there's the joke, hey, you promised me a flying car, and I got 140 characters. So we decided, this was Arissa's idea, and she found a flying car, and we put it there. And then the next day, we drove it, or maybe we flew it, I don't even know, flew it over to the Stanford campus. So Arissa promised me we're going to have a flying car again next year. And, you know, this is about imagination. One of our first speakers was a science fiction writer who wrote Snow Crash. I was kind of disappointed. He was really techno-optimist in the early writings, and he was kind of down on AI. So, you know, look, he's a realist, and that was sort of interesting to see. We had a leader, you know, one of your colleagues and leaders who I think just got promoted to be on the same peer as Demis, although I think no one's on the same peer as Demis. So, but he did get a promotion, and he's all excited to participate, and we're working with him. And then we had his protege interview him. So there was kind of drama. You know, you get to hear him, and then another stage outside because they have good weather at Google. Not all Google, but the California one. And then the next day we had all these startups, 75 pitch, and actually can we find Cinnamon? Does anyone see Cinnamon? Where are you? Yeah, no, you're. Maybe this was an earlier slide. Okay, so that's how good she is. She came at the last minute and then like totally rocked it. And then I love this. We had a robot controlled by someone at MIT remotely. So that's kind of like showing, I don't know, there's something spooky there. But these were the winners. And Jacob was one of my students, an awesome guy, Teal Fellow. And he's the runner-up. Don't rub it in, but I think he's happy. But we got Cinnamon who's going to present, and part of being a winner, once a winner, always a winner. You're going to come up here and kind of share, what you're about and what you're doing. And we had the chairman of MIT there, at Google and Stanford, and then we did a reception at NVIDIA. We're going to do that again. We're working on Jensen's calendar to get him on that. And then this is where he and I were on Wednesday, and we're taking over that joint right there. Here the 3 of us are, Arissa, me and Peter, and it's gonna be glorious. And we're gonna get bicycles. I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna bike all around the campus. And this is the room. We have a 200-foot screen. I want you all to start now. Between now and September, we got to figure out what to do with that screen. I don't know what to do with it, but it's big. It's gonna be awesome. And there we are. There's a skateboard. You can't skateboard between now and September. I can't have you hurt. And there's all these like spaces all around the space. And these are the Google bikes. I talked to him. I want 100 bikes. So if people want to get there early and bike around the bay, it'll be awesome. And then, you know, we've been doing Imagination Action here. Our first one, we had Sam Altman. The second one, we had 60 speakers celebrate 60th year of CS at MIT. A little known fact, AI predated computer science at MIT. And then we've been moving it here for the last few years. And you know this room is kind of meta. We're in the room and you're looking at a picture of the room. And then this guy sat right here and he whispered to me, I can't say this to you on publicly, but we're selling to OpenAI. This is Windsurf, and I don't know if you guys know how that turned out. He's working at Google right now. It didn't work out, but supposedly he thought it was a $3 billion sale. But that's the kind of interesting stuff. You know, it's not ChatGPT writing a book, but there's some good drama there. And this was downstairs. And this was the Top Gun guy. He was back today. He's going to get a Chia Pet. And then this was, kind of like what we did last year. And then in a few minutes, we got to head over to Akamai. And so, kind of like Wimbledon and US Open, French Open, we're doing this all over the place. And we want to welcome you. And I'm really proud of the 60 startups that pitched yesterday. We didn't do a prize or anything for that. And then we had this agent workshop. And who went to the agent workshop? That was really, really special. We're committed to that. And here are all our speakers. A lot of people, over 200. And you guys, we didn't break anything. The building, is intact, and we like being here. And my last point I want to make is this was the first bridge that they wanted between Boston and Cambridge, and the leadership of Harvard in 1793 said no. And this is why they said no. And this usually is really funny. This is the bridge today. We need to build bridges. And today, I hope you met someone that you're building a bridge with. Could be a speaker, could be a fellow audience member, could be one of the amazing video team. We're making connections here. All right, so the last thing before I bring Cinnamon up to kind of share, you can see why she won because of the great work she's doing. Can you say, what are you excited about in terms of us, invading your zip code?
So was anybody at Google last year, by the way? Oh, a couple people. Anyway, it's this incredible energy. For me, it's a renaissance of old Google. And this new sort of flagship. So anyway, last year was a little bit scrappy. I sort of love scrappy. This year we're in their flagship building. We had to drop about, 500,000. But it's going to be this sort of merger of new Google and old Google. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. So hopefully we can keep that kind of campus vibe. But then we have NASA's right next door. We have the sort of shuttle hangar. I think Larry and Sergey, their private runways right there. I don't know if we can play some golf with Sergey. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great.
And you're going to talk to Sergey. He owns a big blimp hangar.
Blimp hangar, whatever.
I know there was asbestos or something in there, but I think it's cleaned out.
Maybe so somehow they cleaned it up.
We can go over there. All right. But, we're really committed to Boston and the Massachusetts ecosystem. But to be committed here, we need to build alliances across the world. And, maybe some of you don't have time or resources to go to one of these other locations. The events are free, so we're not charging you to get in. But you may know people who are there, or you may know people who should be there. And, the next 24 months are going to be absolutely nuts. And I need all of you to be, pulling a stroke to make this the best AI gatherings in the history of the galaxy. So don't screw that up. Please help us. All right, thank you. And I have all my props. My 1954 sweater, the year before AI was coined, so before Christ, I have my Star Trek thing. This is happened, Star Trek Wrath of Khan, best Star Trek movie of all of them, happened supposedly 250 years from now. So as everyone thinks about, America turning 250, let's think about what do the next 5 minutes, the next 250 years look like. And so an AI is going to play a role in it. And then, I won't, okay. All right, Peter. All right, here, give, you have Cinnamon. There's Cinnamon. Yeah, Cinnamon, come on down. So can we please, so I also know that Victor I talked to Victor about coming to this event. He's like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be around. He's definitely not around. He just went to the moon and back. He's the pilot for Artemis. And from what I understand, the next few minutes, he'll be splashing down. I hope it all goes well. But let's take a moment and just think about where our species is and where we want to be, and the kind of inspiration that could, that kind of trip and journey into the stars can do, and hearing from some 20-something and how her CEOing has led to this amazing venture I think gives us all faith in our humanity. I think, let's see, go.
Thanks, John, for that very flattering introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Cinnamon. I'm the CEO of Godella. And we're a physics AI company, which I know physical AI takes on many different definitions for different people. To us, it just means being able to model the physical world accurately. And it's not just photorealistic accuracy. I'm talking about accurate enough such that engineers can use our models as test beds in replacement to, let's say, more traditional simulations or prototypes. So to contextualize this a little bit, I want you to think about all the many ways you might use ChatGPT or Gemini. You might ask it to give you a recipe for tonight, or write a poem for your loved one, or vibe code a SaaS product. But if you want to figure out, let's say, how an airfoil would perform at a different angle of attack, or how heat might transfer through your phone. Or for me, I was a hardware engineer in consumer tech at Apple and at Google. One of the problems I was most curious about was, can I ask ChatGPT to predict what would happen if this laptop dropped from 1 meter? Because this is one of our most expensive tests whenever you're designing consumer electronics, the drop test. And you'll find that if you ask ChatGPT or any language model a question like this, where you need to make a prediction about the physical world, the reason you get is just semantic jargon. It's not actually predicting how the physics would propagate, right? And so models today, AI models today that we commonly reference, can't model physics accurately. It's because they're built for language, they're trained on text data, not built for engineering problems. So for us, some of the most important problems require us to be able to model physics accurately. Godella thinks about how we can bring physical reasoning into AI, and what that might look like. It looks like this, and Godella allows us to model physical systems, highly complex physical systems, and we're already proving that we can run simulations with solver-level accuracy, simulations that traditionally took 2.5 hours in under 2 seconds. And so the impact of this is when we think about the most challenging problems that we have to solve as a society, we think about protein folding, modeling turbulent flows, breakthroughs in fusion and different alternative energy sources. These require true physical reasoning, and our goal is to extend our technology to be able to build, reason, and discover across every domain of the physical world. These are some other exciting applications, but I think I'll just leave you with, our team is very motivated to push forward physics AI, especially as it promotes different types of engineering breakthroughs. And you can follow our progress at godella.ai, or send us an email at founders@godella.ai.
So,
Thank you.
So, we were thoroughly impressed in, this is hard, and, they're taking on something that has real implications. I'm curious, if you're pretty ambitious right now, be 3 times as ambitious. What could you imagine you could achieve if you were 3 times more ambitious than your ambition right now?
Oh, well.
In terms of impact, in terms of what you would need, the resources?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think about all of the unlocks that language models have lended us, and I think about how language models and how ubiquitous they have become have introduced all this interest in the space. I think a lot of us are here today because of how exciting ChatGPT and Gemini and all these incredible models have been. I think the most exciting frontier, the next round of breakthroughs, will be in physics models, because the entire world, every breakthrough in human history, has come down to learning relationships in data. And the types of models that we engage with, right? We're training on raw data, we're training on physics laws, we're enforcing fundamental constraints that make sure that the things we uncover, the things we simulate, are consistent. I do think that is a very viable path to being able to not just model what already exists, but discover what doesn't exist yet. And we already see tokens of this in materials discovery, or a lot of biological research, and I'm keen on pushing that forward. And that would be the true moonshot of physical reasoning for me.
Who thinks we did good in selecting her? Okay. Who would like to talk to her and find a way to be helpful or to learn more about it, so you can kick the tires and understand how you might be able to contribute wind at the back of this effort? And I say win because it's relevant. I also noticed all the headshots had the gray in the background, so I don't know if you had one from Catherine and the other people are simulating it, or they all got those headshots at the event. But
yeah, thank you for the headshots.
That was nice. Example of people using it. All right, if you're going to the after party, please head out. Leave, campfire, leave the place better than you came. So don't make a mess on the way down.
Thank you, John.
Well done, well done.
This is a visualization, but driven by real-time telemetry. This is the maneuvering of integrity to the raise-burn orientation. Just 2,800 miles from Earth.
Houston, we got a great view of the European service module out the window with the sun hitting the side and the solar rays and the NASA worm right there. It's a beautiful looking machine.
Roger.
And we have completed the maneuver to the raise-burn orientation, 1 minute away from the raise-burn.